Hello. So today I have a very, very good friend of mine visiting. So I thought, okay, why don't I uh, use this to share with you his amazing experience and knowledge in exercise science and nutrition and research and life, a little bit
Thank you.
boxing. Dr. Doug Kalman, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Very well. Life is a contact sport,
Yeah.
whether you're in business or whether you're in sport,
Yes.
right? So there's a nutritional way to prep yourself for any type of contact and
Yeah.
combat and life, right? And I'm so happy to be here today to talk to you about a variety of things. We've known each other a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
I like to say I'm very honored to be here talking to
Oh,
you because
thank you
you're an
so much.
inspiration to many.
Ah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, well, uh, honestly, this is not a podcast. This is just like a simple chit chat,
Sure.
coffee, sit down, and I wanted to take the chance to, a lot of my followers would love to hear some of your experience and knowledge, and we've been friends for since maybe first time I attended the ISSN conference in Colorado Springs.
I remember that one very
Yeah.
well.
So, and that's something we're going to talk a little bit about. The international conference is coming. The annual conference is
Yes, the
coming.
annual conference.
It's in June.
Yes, this will be, I might not be great in the math, but it should be our 22nd
Yeah.
annual conference. We started officially in 2003 when we got our nonprofit certification
Yeah.
and so forth. So the International Society of Sport Nutrition is an academic society, but open to anybody,
Yes.
about research and the translation of research for applied human nutrition for people that exercise or for sport
For sports.
performance.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as you know, sport performance now in nutrition is also known as performance nutrition.
Yeah.
So you're not a sport nutritionist, you're a performance nutritionist. Because what many don't realize, depending upon the sport or any sport, there are training days, there are off days, and there are game days. And depending upon the sport, right, and your own workouts individually, you may have many days of activity in a row, or you may have, meaning games in a row,
Yeah.
with lower volume of training. And
Right.
how you fuel yourself
Exactly.
impacts you now and in the future.
Yes. Well, the ISSN has had a huge impact on me, and personally, I met a lot of the people in the industry when it comes to sports supplements or nutrition, exercise science. My network grew a lot, so I highly recommend anyone in or getting into the fitness industry or nutrition to attend the annual conference. If there's one conference you want to do in a year, it's the ISSN conference. Not because Dr. Dog or anyone, I'm just saying this is a way
It's
to
worthwhile.
grow.
And one thing that I would point out is that the International Society of Sport Nutrition, we do have what's called a PubMed indexed
Yes.
journal. And I mention this because it's open access, which
Yeah.
means that each article that is published, the full article is freely downloadable to
Correct.
anybody without a
Yes.
charge,
Without the charge.
versus a paywall behind JAMA and many other journals. We don't want to hide science. We want everybody to be able to read it so they can use an evidence-based approach. And one thing I mentioned within the journal that I think is great for any personal trainer, any fitness enthusiast, anybody looking to further their own education, are the position stands of the ISSN,
Yeah.
which are evidence-based reports, if you will, for a variety of applied nutrition topics, whether it's carbohydrate for sport, protein, creatine, beta-alanine, fish oil.
Yeah.
Recently, we just had a position stand on female sport nutrition, right? We also have a position stand coming out, or was just published, or should be published any day now, on nutrition for combat sports.
Oh, that's interesting.
And a variety of other things over the years. Over 20 position stands have been published.
Definitely. I love reading them, and I stay up to date with you or Dr.
Well,
Antonio.
many trainers and people, again, personal enthusiasts, can use these position stands to guide working with clients,
Yes,
for the goals. And I think you're exemplary at doing that, because it's
I get
evidence,
asked a lot about, because of maybe my competitive career, but I also get asked as a nutrition, oh, what are the new supplements you think? What are the supplements that work? So I always refer them to the science-based proven supplements like creatine, caffeine, the basics, because I think people miss a lot of the basics and they start going to.
If we could talk about missing for a second,
Yeah,
it supplements can play a role, but we should not miss out on food first.
exactly.
Because if you don't eat, doesn't matter what supplements you take, you don't have the calories, the
Yeah.
energy to do what you want to do. Your brain can only be so strong for so long without calories, right? So it's a food first approach and understanding what foods matter. You know, is it a Captain Crunch as your pre-workout food? Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
Is it a bologna sandwich from the local deli as your recovery meal after training? Depends upon your what's going on in your life, right? So we you know, it's food first, and supplements really fill a
but
role.
Unfortunately, nowadays you feel people always want the quick cut. Like they think if I would take these, I would. If I'm not eating, like, no, food is first and comes first, and then all these supplements comes to fill those gaps, right?
Right.
Yeah. There's something I wanted to ask you, take it, which is a couple of years ago you did the research or about calories and amino acids. Do you remember that one?
Yes, very well.
Can you share a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Because many people don't know. They think, oh, amino acid, but that's I want to hear.
it's an interesting topic. Amino acids on their own are popular now, being sold as either the essential amino acid blend or the branch chain amino acid blend. And because the way that the food laws and supplement labeling laws work is these are amino acids, but when they're an incomplete protein, you don't have all 20 of the amino acids or all 9 of the complete, right? You can't count it as a protein, so therefore the FDA says you have to label it as 0 calorie. And so a couple years ago, a laboratory that I work with, we took a bunch of different branch chain amino acids that were on the market, and we analyzed it by something that's known as bomb calorimetry level, bomb calorimetry method, along with other kind of AOAC methods that are approved for laboratory analysis. And in essence, what we found is that these had about 3.4 calories per gram, right? So almost 3/4 that of a carbohydrate. Right, on a per gram basis. So now if you're somebody that's using these and you're gaining weight, or using these and you're not losing the weight that you thought of, you have extra calories that were coming into your diet that weren't being accounted for. And so it really was to help people understand that there are calories. Almost anything on a chemical level that contains carbon will have calories. And just because it's not a complete protein, and it doesn't mean it won't contribute to something. And also the food labeling laws have to be modernized. And we're trying to work on that with the FDA, because food science has gotten so, like, if you remember the first time you ever tried a protein powder, right? Compared to the taste and mouthfeel and everything now, it was like going to the beach, putting some sand in your mouth with vanilla flavoring. And now, like, you can actually eat these higher protein bars without like needing a gallon of water, and same thing with the other ones.
Remember those days, Doug?
That was the rough old days.
I remember the Mega Mass would never really dissolve. I keep pouring water and it keep getting bigger and bigger, and then I can't finish it all. And then I gave whatever I left in the bag to a friend of mine. So I couldn't. So tell us, you work with some martial artists and like you work with it. So tell us a little bit more about your experience with working with the athletes when it comes to martial arts.
Well, briefly, the first Olympics I started working was the '96 Olympics. I worked, interestingly enough, not for the United States, but I worked for doing some work with France for the track team. And so that was the highest level. And I've worked 6 Olympics. And I've had athletes that I've worked doing nutritional counseling and programming for, that have been in, if you're a tennis fan, that have been in, on the female side, every major open I've had
Yeah, I
somebody,
remember that.
right?
Yeah,
And so I've had a variety of time,
that's good.
and innocently enough, uh, I got into working in the world with combat athletes. I think it was about 2011,
Or because you also
2012.
you love boxing, so
Right.
probably.
I've loved boxing, and then the manager of some UFC fighters contacted me, and I started working with my first three fighters I worked with were Rashad Evans, Anthony Rumble Johnson, may he rest
Wow.
in peace, and Vitor Belfort. And so this is going back again,
Yeah.
2011, 2012. And from my trial run working with them, the manager of the Blackzilians team brought me on, and I became the performance nutritionist for the Ultimate Fighter season 21, working with one of the teams, the Blackzilians, because that year the UFC did a team versus a team,
Yeah.
America Top Team versus Blackzilians. So ever since then, I've been fortunate enough to be working with the highest level athletes in UFC, Bellator, and other ONE, ONE, other organizations around the world, including everywhere. And I have some fighters fighting upcoming in Qatar. I have some, all over.
I have
So I've
some
been,
followers from Qatar. That would be
and
interesting.
I've been blessed, for that. And it is nutritionally different
Yeah,
than
definitely.
when I first started out working with people running track and field,
Yeah,
right? And then
definitely.
from track and field, actually, I was living in New York City at the time. I was writing for a couple of magazines in the health and fitness side, and I started working with bodybuilders, NPC bodybuilders, and then some, those that
Yeah.
competed on their way. And on the professional side, worked with some professional bodybuilders, helped support their training, nutritional testing,
Different
and
nutrition.
a variety of different sports. The
Variety.
combat sports has been interesting to me also because I grew up as a wrestler.
Yeah.
There wasn't much boxing around me, so my father and I would watch it on TV, or listen it on the radio, or maybe be lucky enough somebody in the neighborhood had HBO and we could watch it on pay-per-view. And then I got to start to work with them, and I also box myself, as you
I
know.
know.
I
Yeah.
compete as a Masters USA boxer. I've been lucky enough,
I gotta
or
say, you
good enough
motivate
to,
me to do it to
you
watch
know,
them. Like I was like,
you're gonna do it with
I
me.
gotta do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've competed in Las Vegas, competed, lots of different places, and it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
But the interesting thing to me about boxing, take away the hitting part.
Yeah.
It's really a game of chess, yes, with physical consequences.
Correct.
Because for every movement, there's a counter movement,
Yeah.
usually. And for every fake, so you have to understand the ebb and flow. And some people can do it during training, can do it on a bag during a class.
Yeah.
But then once it's ding, 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 and there's lights and there's a ref, it's a whole nother
All
level of
different,
emotional stress that
correct.
you don't really think about.
Yeah.
And it's pressure. And so
I call
it's
tell
pressure.
it's time under tension. Like you're be under tension. You're waiting for that bell to ring,
Right.
so you can if you're like your breath is going out, and it's all the tension. Then you have to, of course, you gotta stay aware, because then if you don't, boom.
And
But it's interesting how we prepare for it and we train for it. It was a different. I liked it more. Like I have some love to it because of all these years of me competing and training the same way almost. So I wanted, when I started doing some boxing, it's like, okay, this is really a different way of challenge to my body.
And you don't have to. I would encourage everybody to do boxing class, do boxing, do kickboxing, right? Something like this, even BJJ. And the reason is you don't have to go out to compete,
No.
but you get to learn something about yourself. And you're not necessarily going to come back home with a black eye or having a torn, whatever from a Kimura or something, right? But you get to learn about yourself. And one of the things is that you have to learn patience. You also have to learn, listen to your body. We're not all the same ages,
No.
which is hard for me as heck. Very much, because in my mind I could still do like what I was 15, 20, 25 doing, and
we were just talking about it. Yeah.
and back then I competed in powerlifting, and I even did